Good morning and welcome to a morning outlook. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday the 13th of December. So looking at the euro dollar first, and well, we've now put in ourselves, we've got this, a pivot swing here, bearish pivot swing. A trigger of the break of the lows of that would suggest further downside. Really, it's continuation in this current move here. So as I said, there's possibility that we could continue to the downside. There's little in the way of support below these levels on this daily chart here. Just need to flick back to the weekly chart, and just there is, or it's almost sitting on the weekly 21, which may just provide a bit of support. I say it's sitting on there, it's around that area. So just need to be a bit careful, as it's already had a bit of a bounce, but coming down to the 4 hourlies, well, lower highs, lower lows. It's sold off quite strongly yesterday afternoon, and is looking like it's going to do the same again at this moment. One thing I should point out is a lot of news coming out today. We've got at 9:30 we've got UK average earnings and the other rest of the employment data, which obviously is more likely to affect the pound and the euro here, of course. But we do have then at 1:30 the CPI data for the US, and then finally at 7 p.m. this afternoon, really key is the FOMC statement, the Fed rate, the press conference thereafter at 7:30. All those figures with the projections, etc. will and the projections themselves may be more important than most other things. There, it's widely expected that the rate will be increased by 0.25%, so 0.25% increase to 1.5%. So I would expect some volatility around that 7 o'clock time, and then even more then at 7:30. But as I say, the projections themselves, because it will show the projections of increased rate or potential increased rates going forward, maybe as well there. So the euro at the moment looking on the weak side here this morning. Would say that with that data due to be released today, it may be a slowish market now for the pound. I expect some volatility around the employment report this morning. Now this, I saw a pivot swing yesterday. That continued through, broke the lows yesterday, and pushed on a little bit further. So it's underway. It's working. It did have a bounce, and it's in a sort of bounce at the moment back to the 4 hourly 8s. And it's really at the moment may just need a little bit more of a work off. But I'm looking at the lows here and thinking, well, there's a potential continuation move in all of this. So if it does start selling off post 8 o'clock, I will be looking for yesterday's lows, maybe down towards that daily S1 as well. Okay, that's the pound. If it doesn't happen, I won't be in it. Okay, and then the yen. Well, the yen sold off initially, bounced later. It's currently just sitting in a bit of a mess there. I mean, as I say, it came off really through the sort of early session, Asian session this morning. The main sell-off here, but having a bounce now. It has got its daily pivot above, so there's the potential for it to push up towards that. If it starts failing this morning, well, it got pretty close to that weekly pivot yesterday. It could well come back. This morning rather. Beg your pardon. It could work its way back towards that yet again, but as I say, it has got the daily pivot. I'd like to see that clicked off first, but again, if it starts breaking, maybe even the low of that 6 o'clock candle, it may be sufficient to see us see a bigger correction back. Okay, Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, well, it seems to be in one of the stronger currencies against US dollars. As I said yesterday, lots of bullish sentiment on it, there seems. However, it's not really moving much in the way of pips, but it is still moving. There is a bit of divergence off this 4 hourlies that we're seeing at the moment, off these highs here. It's just diverged a little bit and it appears to be selling back off now. It has got its daily pivot below, so there is a potential it breaks the 21s. It will continue rolling back to that sort of direction. Obviously, we've seen the pound and the euro being sold off as well. It wouldn't be surprised to see that it's just a sign of dollar strength, and we could well see that coming through into the Aussie as well. And finally, Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar really, in terms of daily ranges, is very tight at the moment, and it really didn't do too much different yesterday. In terms of, there was a bit of chop and a bit of a shove up there at in the afternoon. But then, since then, it's really just given back the gains for now, at least. From what I'm looking at, it's very difficult. It's chopping away. It looks at the moment that it may want to push back up towards yesterday's highs. There may be pushing on even further if it starts breaking out of this tight range that it's sitting in over the last 3 or 4 days. Okay, so that's it really. So busy old day in terms of news, but that does often mean that we'll see periods where we may be needing to sit on our hands a little bit. But who knows? People may be starting to position themselves against any potential movement in the dollar later. Have a great one. Bye for now.